Hey there. Welcome to Toy Talk with Mike and Chad, episode 79. I'm Mike,
Chad.
and the toys that we're going to talk about today are, I think this is going to be one of our mishmash episodes, because we didn't talk about what we're going to talk about.
No.
So yeah, he just walked in the door here, sits down, I hit record, and he didn't have any no toys with you today.
No toys. It's been a dry January.
Yeah.
It's been a dry fall, actually, for toys. I do have my pile of loot shipping, so from Big Bad Toy Store. That shipped today, I believe. So
And how many items? 17, 18?
14 and a t-shirt, I believe. But some of them are bigger figures.
So you've got a big haul coming.
Yeah. So I'll have lots to talk about for our next video.
All right. Yeah, it has not been a very dry January for me in any way. Because, as with every year, like we talked about it, we haven't shot in like a month.
I think our last video was the best of, and like what.
Yeah, we did our year-end wrap-up. So we sat down like the last week of December.
Yeah.
It is now the 27th or whatever. What is it?
6th?
26th. It's late January.
26th.
So yeah, it's been about a month. But anyway, at the end of the year, I said I have to be better this year about buying figures. But yeah, they just keep coming out. So I do have a lot of figures this month already. Plus, yeah, not that I set out to have a dry January, but I was just telling you earlier about how I had some beers at lunch today, and then I ended up taking a couple-hour nap this afternoon. So the drinks have been flowing a lot this month because it was my birthday last weekend. And so not only have I been going out to celebrate, but everybody got me alcohol for my birthday. So I've got an overflow of alcohol laying around. So yeah, I've been drunk on booze and toys all month long.
Amazing.
And I have a lot of toys to talk about.
I'm jealous.
Yeah. All right. So where to begin? Any like toy news? Anything of interest coming up? You've been seeing?
For me, I've been closely, and I know I shit on them all the time. I've been closely following the Walking Dead figures from McFarlane. I know they're like the re-release of the,
because they're just a little
they're 5-inch ones.
Yeah,
I can't jump into that.
I have a few of them, only a handful. Like I was a big fan of the Walking Dead comic book.
Yeah,
and a fan of the show for the first few years. But I have, I think, maybe 4 or 5 of the comic toys, and then maybe another 2 or 3 of the TV show toys. I never really understood them. That was a weird time for McFarlane because he wasn't really making Spawn figures at the time. He didn't have the DC license yet, so he was doing like a lot of, I think, Halo and Walking Dead. But the figures were a weird scale. They didn't match up with anything. At 5 inches, they're too tall for like G.I. Joes.
Yeah.
They're too small for Marvel Legends. And even at 5 inches, like there's other 5-inch lines like Masters of the Universe, but those like Turtles and Masters of the Universe are always like bulkier, but
these are
they're really skinny, and so they didn't really fit in with anything. And not that they need to, but I like my toys to be able to kind of display cohesively. So I probably would have bought more of those Walking Dead figures back in the day if they fit anywhere. They also had weird ass articulation. Like instead of their legs just being able to move forward like this, their legs would kind of go like this or something, and it'd be like no person would ever move their legs like that. Like it's like they just put a slit there for articulation to say there is articulation, but it didn't make any sense. You might as well have not even added the articulation.
Which is why I'm probably not going to jump into it, but I like seeing.
You probably shouldn't. Yeah.
No, I know. I like seeing toys added from like franchises I like, and it's been done before because he did it 8 years ago, 9 years ago. Yeah, the Walking Dead ones.
It's been a while. Now I do have a cool set, which I probably talked about on this channel a couple years ago, but I have they look like G.I. Joes.
Yes.
Do you remember those ones? They used to be pinned on the wall here, but they haven't been for a while. But yeah, so he took Walking Dead figures and he painted the good guys to look like G.I. Joe Tiger Force and the bad guys to look like Cobra Python Patrol, and they came on G.I. Joe like cards and everything. They were pretty cool. But yeah. Anyway, I did see he was re-releasing those. I guess that's great if you're a hardcore Walking Dead fan and you missed them the first time. But yeah, I would say don't bother.
Otherwise, toy news for me is pretty... not much going on.
Well, there's been lots of announcements.
Yeah.
Like they just announced a new line of DC Superpowers
Yeah, I
figures
saw
the other
those.
day, so I pre-ordered those. There was just Hasbro did one of their fan like live
Fan
streams,
con,
and they
whatever.
revealed a bunch of new Marvel Legends that
Yeah.
are coming out. Now, fortunately, they're in the cycle now where they're redoing a lot of characters, so it's like another Spider-Man or another Wolverine, and I can usually pass on those, which is nice. I don't want them to get to the point where I don't want any of their figures, but if they put out like 6 figures every wave and it's like 4 of them are just Captain America and Iron Man that I don't need, and then there's 2 characters that I do want, that's a good place for me to be at, for like to continue to keep collecting, because I do like collecting, but also it's a little easier on the wallet.
Scale down.
Yeah. So yeah, there's been lots of cool new stuff. But anyway, I'll get into my pile of junk over here. So maybe I'll start. I have a couple of Marvel Legends. This guy, I talked about him very briefly on my channel already. So if you're somebody that watches every episode, you might have seen a little bit. But I got this guy the very last week of the year.
Yep.
So I talked about him in my last video where I was kind of doing my best of the year and I was eliminating figures. So he was on the desk for a minute, just long enough to be eliminated. But I didn't really give him a proper review. I usually try to talk about every toy I buy and give it a somewhat proper review on the channel. But this here is Count Nefaria.
It's pretty nefarious.
Yeah, like it's a cool figure. And what I like about this guy is he's a unique character. There has never been a Count Nefaria figure before. And I like, as just a big Marvel nerd, I like all the little side characters. And in my head, I collect toys as if I were to play with them. And as a kid, I always would have loved to add a new character. Even if I didn't like the character, it's like, this guy can be my new character that gets killed in the first battle every time I play. And it's even fun to have those cannon fodder type of guys. And that's probably who he would have been for me if I had this toy when I was a kid. But yeah, he's a toy when he came out early last year. I wasn't willing to pay the full price for him. So I thought, like, if he ever drops in price, like on a good sale price, I'll pick him up. And yeah, it was like he was on sale the last week of the year on Amazon, and I got him for, I don't know, I think 50% off or something. So he's a cool character. He's got a cool little cape. And
Cape actually drives me crazy because it's a peg.
Yeah, it's not a great cape, but for just display purposes,
yeah, it'll work.
He looks fine on the shelf.
I like his face. Pretty devious looking. Yeah, cool.
Yeah, he looks very dastardly. But he's a character, like, I've read a lot of comic books with him, but I still couldn't even tell you really what his powers are. He's got, like, a very generic costume. It's just, like, boots and gloves and a cape, but he doesn't have a logo or in the colors.
He's got an N on his belt.
I guess. But even that's
still not a logo.
Yeah, having a letter on it is, like, the most generic thing you could do. So, yeah, I don't know. He's fine. But anyway, we've already talked more about him more than we even should. Now, this is a figure my brother Doug got me for my birthday. So this is a figure that was kind of in the same category as Nefaria. So this is Elektra / Daredevil. So Elektra is kind of one of Daredevil's, like, on and off girlfriends, and she's like a ninja. You know, they did that shitty movie with what's her face in it? Who was it?
Jennifer
Garner. Yeah, and then she reappeared in Deadpool and Wolverine just last year. Anyway, so in the comic books, Daredevil had to stop being Daredevil for a while, and Elektra stepped in the role of Daredevil, so she became like the female Daredevil. And so I liked those comic books, and the design looked kind of cool, but I knew it wasn't going to last. Like, she's eventually, Daredevil's going to go back to being Daredevil, so Elektra will go back to being Elektra. So I figured, even though this is a cool looking figure, I don't really want to drop $35 on it, because it'll be a short-lived look. Now, to my surprise, she continued to wear this and call herself Daredevil, even though the original Daredevil returned. So she's still wearing this to this day.
There were 2 Daredevils.
There are now 2 Daredevils. But I had mentioned to my brother, because he had asked about this figure, he's like, did you get that new Elektra? And I said, no, I was thinking about it, but maybe if she goes on sale. So anyway, for my birthday, I think he found it on sale somewhere, and he picked it up for me. So this wasn't like really high on my want list, and like I said, it's an older figure that came out like months and months ago, but it was a nice little thing for him to add to my my birthday present. So I think his main gift to me is he bought me a big stack of like 60 Conan comic books. He knows I've been getting into old Marvel Conan. I've talked about that on here a little bit. So yeah, now I've got this massive stack of Conans to read, and you threw Electra into the mix.
Sequential order? Like
No,
just okay.
Now my brother buys a lot of back issues. I don't because I spend so much money on new comic books every week.
Yeah.
But my brother, he buys less new stuff and he hunts old stuff. So he's got this guy that has like a bunch of comic books stacked in his like barn or something, and Doug makes appointments to go flick through his stuff every couple of months and comes home with hundreds of comic books. Anyway, so he made an appointment with this guy specifically to find me some Conans for my birthday. So that was very nice. Thank you, Doug. And so yeah, I got, it's not sequential, but they range from, I think the lowest one I got's in the 30s.
Okay.
And the highest one I get's like in the 200s. So it does span like, decade or more of Conan comic books. But
it's pretty solid figure.
Yep. And this scarf does come off, if you're wondering.
Okay, good.
So you can see her. She's got her mask is basically the same as Matt Murdock's.
Yeah.
If you take that off, so she's just got her mouth and nose exposed. Okay. Although it does look, when you put it on without the scarf, her head looks a little small.
Oh yeah,
especially when you compare her side by side with like my other Electra figures, which I had done for like my Instagram. I put her next to the other Electra figure, and yeah, she looks like she's got a shrunken head or something. So yeah, so she's cool. Here's a couple other randomy things that I got for my birthday. Now, Vanessa wouldn't have picked these out on her own, my wife. But we were in Walmart the other day. It was like a couple of days before my birthday. And I knew that she had bought me some non-toy stuff. She bought me a very cool hoodie for like my favorite band, Alkaline Trio. And she got me some other cool stuff. But I know she always wants to get me something kind of fun, and that she hadn't yet. So we were in Walmart. I saw these figures. They were only $15 each. And that's Canadian. In the States, they're probably like $10 figures. Yeah. And I was like tempted to throw them in my cart, but I'm like, I shouldn't be wasting even $30 on these figures because I am trying to tighten my belt a little bit when it comes to these things. And then she was like, oh, I'll buy them for your birthday. So these here are from the, I don't even know what company makes them, but they're from the Sega line. So have you seen these things around?
Yeah.
So they have some Streets of Rage characters, and I've seen like the Altered Beast. There was a werewolf, and then they did, I think, the monkeys from Super Monkey Ball. Anyway, this must be a new wave of them because this was the first time I saw them. But this is another variation of the main character from Altered Beast. Do you remember that game?
I do remember the game. I don't remember the character.
So I think the premise was, because I never played it, is you were a guy, and as you went through the levels, you could transform into different animals. And so every level you'd turn into a different thing. So the first level you were like a werewolf, which was the first toy that came out. But this toy was labeled Were Dragon. And I think it was the name that really sold me. If this figure was just called Dragon, I might have been like, he's cool, but I don't need him. But
Were Dragon.
Were Dragon, I thought, okay, I need to have a Were Dragon. And for $15, I can't believe how great this toy is. Like, he's super articulated.
Yeah, I remember you sending me the screenshots of these guys, and like, I'm always wary of like $15 toys now because they're so expensive. Everything has gone up dramatically. So when you were like, yeah, it was $15, I'm like, okay, probably a piece of junk, but no, it's very well articulated.
Yeah, he feels good. He's a quality figure.
Heavy, you know.
Yeah, he came with some accessories. I think he had a couple like blast effects, and I don't know what else. He might have had a little stand or something. But the other figure I got, also from the same Sega line, but from a different game.
Yeah.
So Streets of Rage is a game where it was like a side scroller, and I think you were two brothers. It was kind of like Double Dragon type of thing. Again, I never played Streets of Rage. If I did, I don't remember it. I don't know this character from the game. But this here is a kangaroo named Roo, and he's a kangaroo with boxing gloves and boxing trunks on, and a leash. And yeah, he's from Streets of Rage, apparently. I don't know if he was a playable character or a boss that you had to beat.
It's been years.
Yeah, but again, I saw this thing, and for $15, how are you going to say no to a kangaroo with boxing gloves?
Yeah, this guy's cool.
He's awesome. Bright colors. So yeah.
Thank you, toy companies that make affordable, quality toys.
I know, it's the kind of thing that, every time Hasbro ups their prices or some smaller boutique company charges you like $60 for a little figure. Like, for example, we're going to talk about some Super 7 reaction figures here in a minute. And, those prices, I just saw, like, our local comic shop just got some new reaction figures in, and they just increased the price from $29 to $33.99.
Yeah.
And these figures have 5 points of articulation. They're small. They're simple. Most of them are just repaints of figures they already released. And yet they can give me this kangaroo, totally new sculpt that they can't reuse for any other characters. He's got accessories. He's got, I think 30 plus points of articulation.
$15.
$15. And yeah, these guys here are like $20 more. And
for something probably
so let's move on to that.
Half the size.
So reaction figures, I love them. I've got a ton of them over here. I collect like the Godzilla reaction figures. In fact, I have a whole bunch of new Godzilla reaction figures, but I'm not going to talk about them today because I have enough of them that they kind of warrant their own
video,
their own episode. So I have a bunch of them. I also have a bunch of Transformer reaction figures, G.I. Joe reaction figures, but I also buy some like miscellaneous stuff. And just maybe in the last like 2 or 3 months, I kind of got roped into buying the Sesame Street reaction figures. That's not something I ever thought I needed to collect. I don't particularly have a lot of nostalgia for Sesame Street, but the figures are pretty nice. So once I got a couple of them, it just kind of opened the floodgates. So when the first wave of these Sesame Street figures first came out, there was only one figure I pre-ordered. I was like, you know what? I don't care about Sesame Street, but I want this one figure. But in the months it took before my pre-order was fulfilled, I came to my senses, and I was like, I don't need a Sesame Street toy, so I canceled it. But then that toy, of course, was the hardest one to get, so it was sold out everywhere. And so then once the figures actually came out, and I ended up getting all the other figures from Wave 1, but I couldn't get this one, I was like, damn it, I should have kept my pre-order at the time. Anyway, I think they did
I think they did.
Yeah, they did a repop on this, so they ran a couple more figures. So this here is the like
Yip monsters.
Yip aliens, Martians. So yeah, if you know them from Sesame Street, they're just basically a couple of fuzzy sock puppets, and they go, they do that. And so these guys have the only articulation on them is literally they have a little lever on their back, so their mouths can barely open and close. So that's it. So this here, $30. Roo and Were Dragon, $15.
I mean, at least with this one, it's 2 figures, so you're kind of, but still, yeah.
Now, here's another frustrating thing. Is so like they come, because these guys don't have legs, they kind of hover.
Yeah.
So they came with a clear display stand, which is that classic kind of reaction style display base, which is really frustrating because I've complained about this before, but none of the reaction figures ever come with display bases. But because they're so small, they tend to fall over all the time. So you basically need a display base if you want to keep them on display. So I've been buying packages and packages of these display bases, and they're not cheap.
No.
So when you get a figure like this and they include the display base, it's like, why don't they just do that with every figure? It's very frustrating.
Especially if you're increasing the price.
Yeah. Now, I don't know if they've increased their prices, probably. But like, I think if you go to Super 7's website, like these guys are no more expensive. I'm not sure why our comic shop bumped them up a couple bucks, maybe because of their shipping costs. I know there have been a bunch of issues with Diamond distributing. They filed for bankruptcy or something.
But apparently McFarlane is trying to buy the rights to Diamond Comics, so I've heard.
Yeah, who knows? But you just mentioned like there's 2 of these guys in a package, so even though there's no articulation, like, well, you get 2 guys. But the display base has got 2 pegs on one base. So even if, again, if I think of like, if I wanted to play with these guys, they're stuck together. Like, You couldn't like have them walk up to each other and be like, "Oh, hi." Like, give me 2 separate display bases at least. Like, come on. But anyway, they are pretty cute.
I canceled mine, and I'm jealous. Yeah, these were some of my favorites. Now, I do have lots of nostalgia with Sesame Street.
Yes. But see, this thing, I talked about this before, but it's because you guys keep fueling it for me. Like, you were talking about buying these, and then my friend Christian was talking about buying them, and my friend Ben was talking about buying them. I'm like, why does everybody want Sesame Street figures? And I kind of just got in my head, and now here I am collecting them.
And when I saw the other one, I assume you're going to talk about too. I said the same thing because he was also one of my favorites.
So here's the other thing. So my buddy Guy, our buddy Guy, so like I said, it was my birthday last weekend, and I had plans for my friends, you and Guy. We all went out to dinner last Friday night. But that Wednesday, I went to my local comic shop, which is right downtown. It's like a half-hour drive from where we live, so I had to go all the way downtown in the city to go to my comic book shop. And Guy lives right downtown, pretty close to the comic book shop, but he doesn't collect this stuff, so I would never expect to run into him there. But anyway, so I go into my comic shop on New Comic Book Day. I'm getting my new stuff, and I'm wondering, is there anything else I want to like? But the guy that works there, he hands me a gift card, and he said, "Here, this is for you." And I said, "What's it?" And I opened it up. It was $100 gift card. And I was like, and it said, "Happy birthday from Guy." And I was like I was not expecting this. Like, usually we exchange birthday presents, but like kind of $50 is kind of like $100. It's like, okay, well, Jesus. So anyway, then I thought, well, I have to find something in the store to buy so I can tell Guy that I used his gift card. I didn't want to just use it on my weekly comics. That seems a little less exciting. But while I was there browsing, Guy walks in. And I was like, Guy, what are you doing here? I'm like, thank you for this gift card. And he's like, yeah, I called them over the phone today and asked them to put it in there because I know you come in here on Wednesdays. But he was a little nervous that they weren't going to give me it or something because he never didn't exchange. So he's like, I was just coming down to make sure you got it. I'm like, yeah, I've got the physical gift card here in my hand, so thank you. So while I was with Guy and I was picking up things and discussing with him, I'm like, should I get this? Should I get that? I was looking at the Sesame Street reaction figures. And he said, you got to get Ernie. And I was like, I would buy Ernie if they had a Bert, but they're sold out of Bert. And I'm like, I don't want Ernie without a Bert. So I'm going to pass on Ernie. But I decided to buy this guy. So this is Guy Smiley, the newscaster.
Yeah,
remember him?
He was one of my favorites.
Yeah, he looks great. He should have come with a microphone.
I think so too.
But he came with a loaf of bread with a face on it. I semi-remember that skit where he was interviewing a loaf of bread or something.
Yeah.
So he came with a loaf of bread, which is cute, but he should have a microphone. So Guy got me that. That's partially his gift.
You'll do a close-up, but
yeah. But you can see how hopefully you people will see why I got roped into buying these because
they're cute.
And they just look so accurate. The thing about reaction figures with other brands is they're kind of simplified versions. So when you get a reaction figure of an actor, it doesn't really look like the actor because they're such simple toys. But these guys, they really capture the Muppets. Like they look really good. So anyway, I bought Guy Smiley. And then 2 days later, we go out for dinner. And Guy shows up and he gives me a gift bag. And I'm like, what are you doing? You already gave me $100, which was more than I expected. And he's like, yeah, but I wanted you to have Ernie. So I bought you Ernie anyway. So now he has cursed me with having to go out and probably pay top dollar to go find a Bert somewhere online because I can't have Ernie without Bert. So anyway, Ernie came with his rubber ducky. And he's pretty great too.
Yeah. I always loved Ernie. Such a practical jokester.
I'll be honest, I was not really a big fan of Bert and Ernie. I liked the monster characters less. Yeah. I didn't really like the human characters, and not even really the Muppet human characters. And Bert and Ernie, even before, I don't know what their deal is, but they always seemed a little weird to me. These two guys that were just... Yeah. Anyway. So
Ernie.
It's a cool figure. Paint job's really nice on the shirt and everything. So yeah, now I've got 3 more Sesame Street figures to add to the 4 I already have, I think. So the collection is growing. Anyway, another thing Guy bought me is with that $100. So I did put most of it went towards my comic books that week. But I bought the guy Smiley, and I know I just said I'm not going to talk about Godzilla reaction figures, but I'm just going to briefly mention them because our comic shop had a new wave of blind box Godzillas. So I bought another one of these blind boxes. I'm trying to collect all 4 different versions, but it's very frustrating because since the box is blind, you could pay for this thing and get the same thing 4 times. And these things are not cheap. These are $25. And I was like, so I have a hard time justifying spending my money on it. But since this was like free money from Guy, I was like, okay, I'll take my chance and I'll buy another one of these. I got this little version of Burning Godzilla. Now, the design is based on the old Shogun Godzilla toy, which I have a few of them already. So they make the Shogun Godzilla. Back in the 70s, there was this big Shogun Godzilla figure, which didn't look anything like Godzilla. He looks kind of weird, like, you know, looks kind of like a frog or something. But that's the only Godzilla toy that you could get back then. So they made this big giant Godzilla figure. Anyway, so Super 7 makes these little replicas. They made them in like 6 or 7 inches, and then they also made them in like the 3 to 4 inch scale there. So they made a larger, like a 7-inch scale of the Burning Godzilla, and I thought, I don't need that. That looks stupid because he's painted black with just some orange splotches on him. But then I get the little Burning Godzilla, and I thought, I actually really like him. He's black, and I think the orange and yellow look kind of nice, offsetting it. So I liked this guy, which I will talk about in another episode. But that prompted me to go on Amazon and order the larger version of the Burning Godzilla, which is pretty cool because you can see he's
kind of translucent.
Yeah, he's cast in translucent orange. So the light passes through the orange bits of him there. And then he's black painted on top of it. So I don't know. I think it looks really cool, especially up against the light. He's got his little like tongue that comes out, and he's got his fist flies off, and you press a button, which are all features from the original 70s Shogun Godzilla. But a while back, I had bought the standard like 7-inch Shogun Godzilla, and I kind of thought this would be the only large one I need. Because again, these things aren't cheap. But now I got this one. Now I'm kind of tempted to buy the other. There's a couple color variations, and I'm like, these guys are pretty fun. So yeah, initially I thought buying the small ones would appease me and keep me from buying the large ones, but all they've done is they've won me over to make me want the large ones too.
Mission fail.
Yeah, but anyway, so he's pretty fun.
Yeah, pretty cool.
Pretty cool. Here's just a little one I'll throw in here. This is an old figure. I just got it today because one of our other local comic book shops, the one that you most frequent, Giant Robot, they do a lot of toy trade-ins. My main comic shop, Strange Adventures, doesn't really deal with that. So Giant Robot always has a lot of used toys. Anyways, a couple years ago when G.I. Joes were only 4 inches, I had a pretty close to complete collection. I had hundreds and hundreds of them, but there were a lot of them. So even with hundreds, there were still quite a few little holes in my collection. Anyway, so they posted a bunch of G.I. Joes that got traded in, and they were like used G.I. Joes, $9.99 each. So I messaged them because I don't go into that shop very often on my own. But I said, hey, can you put that one G.I. Joe aside? And the next time you or my brother went there, I was going to ask you to pick it up for me. My brother happened to go there yesterday, I think. And so he gave it to me today. We went out for lunch today. So this here is a figure from 2007, 2008. This is Grand Slam. This is one of the 4-inch G.I. Joes. He's one of the original 13 Joes from 1982.
Oh.
And I didn't have this version of him. Grand Slam in 82, you could get him with red pads, and then you could get him with silver pads. So I have the red pad version in the 4-inch scale, and I also have this new kind of blue plaid, or new blue pad version they did, but I did not ever get the silver version because I think this was a Target exclusive or something. So I was happy to get him. Although a bummer is he came with his display base and he came with 2 guns, but he's supposed to have a helmet with a clear visor that you can lift up and down over his eyes. He didn't have his helmet and his visor, which is a bummer.
Kind of looks like Jordan Peele.
You think?
A little bit.
Yeah. Anyway, he's a white dude. He's supposed to be, anyways. But yeah, I debated on whether I should ask them to put this aside because I'm kind of done buying 4-inch G.I. Joes. All my 4-inch G.I. Joes, which I spent an obscene amount of money to collect all those ones because I would buy the convention box sets and I would buy the figure subscription services. And these things were like $600 a go. And I did it every year for years. So I have thousands and thousands of dollars invested in my 4-inch G.I. Joe collection. And around the time that I painted the room like green and black and I had to move some toys around, I decided to box up my 4-inch G.I. Joe collection, which was painful to do. So it almost seems it's kind of a bummer to buy a new one knowing that he's just going to get thrown in a box after I talked about him on this channel. But yeah, Grand Slam was an important enough character being one of the original 13 that I thought, yeah, I better grab this guy, helmet or not. So anyway,
Cool.
Yeah. Do you have any of those 4-inch G.I. Joes from that era? No. All right. Here's another one. Actually,
Time check.
Yeah, let's do a quick cut here. Okay, so I've got a couple of kind of randomy things. So let's go back to Guile and Guile spoiling me for my birthday. So besides the $100 gift card and the Ernie and some ET socks, he also bought me a set of DC Superpowers figures. So it was the black and white set.
Okay.
So it's Superman, Batman, and Wonder Woman. And they come in just black and white colors with one accent color. So Superman's logo is red, Wonder Woman's like tiara is yellow, and whatever. So anyway, it's a nice set, but I bought it when it first came out months ago. Guy gave it to me when we were all out for dinner last Friday. And he actually thought he was getting me a puzzle. And it's an easy mistake to make because it doesn't say action figures. It says DC Superpowers on the front on a plain black box. And then when you turn it around, there's a cartoon, like a comic drawn image of the 3 heroes like this. And then on the front of the box, it says 5,200 pieces. Now, mind you, that sounds like a very complicated puzzle at 5,200 pieces. But he just saw, he's like, okay, it's a box. It looks like a puzzle box. It's got an image on it and 5,200 pieces. So he thought he was buying me a puzzle. Anyway, I told him at dinner, I was like, no, these are actually action figures. And he's like, oh, really? I thought I was getting a puzzle. I was like, don't worry about it. I collect these action figures. I didn't want to tell him that I already had them. But I knew he bought it at GameStop. So I went to my main GameStop, where our friend Justin is the manager. And I went in there. Justin wasn't working, but there was a girl working the counter. And I said, hey, I've got this thing. My friend bought it for my birthday. I know you get it from GameStop. I'm not 100% sure it was this location. Most likely it wasn't, because Guy probably bought his at the mall. Mm-hmm. But I said, is there any way I can exchange this? And she said, no, without a receipt, unfortunately, we can't help you. And I was like, okay, great. Because then I bought a bunch of G.I. Joes that day. And I'll talk about those on another episode. I'm not going to get into G.I. Joe Classified, but I did get 3 new G.I. Joe Classified figures. There was also something else I bought that day, too. Which I'm going to talk about in a second. So anyway, I ended up spending like almost $200 there that day. And it would have been nice if I could have got the $40 off of this thing. But anyway, so I took it home with me, and I had to call Guy and said, look, I didn't want to have to tell you this, but I already have these things, and I need to exchange it. Do you have the receipt? And he said, I don't have the receipt anymore, but I bought it at the mall on the 14th at 6, it was like 6 p.m. So I called the mall, and I said, look, I have this thing. Can I return it and exchange it for another toy? I don't have a receipt, but it was bought on the 14th, 6 p.m. And he was like, well, we can't really help you. He's like, but maybe we could go into our system and see if we can find the product code. And I said, I'm on your website. The product code is 881-780 or whatever. And he's like, okay, well, let me look into it and I'll call you back. And I said, okay. And this was at like 10 in the morning on Thursday. All day Thursday. They close at like 9 p.m. or something. So he had all day. Didn't call me all day. So then Friday, I thought, well, I'll check with him again because I'd like to go in and do this exchange. So I called him on Friday, and I got the same guy, the manager, and he sounded annoyed to hear from me. And he was like, well, we have to check with our head office. They have to, so it could be a few days, so you just have to be patient. And I'm thinking, like, well, if you had given me all that information the first time,
wouldn't have called the second time.
I thought you just had to go in the back room and check your receipts. Like, yeah, okay, if you have to email head office, fair game, but you didn't tell me any of that. So I was like, all right, I'm just going to have to wait a few days. But the guy already sounds like he's annoyed that he even has to do this. But then on Saturday, I think it was, Justin from our preferred store called me. And he said, I've got this pre-order figurine for you. And I said, okay, I'll come get it. And I said, by the way, I have this thing. I went into your store the other day, and the girl that worked there told me I couldn't exchange it. I'm like, but I explained the whole situation to him. And he was like, what is the product? When did you buy it? And he like typed something in. He's like, yeah, I found the record of it. Yeah, you can come in and exchange it at my store. So I'm like, all right.
Why was that so difficult?
So I still don't know if I'm going to get a phone call from the other location like 2 days from now and be like, I guess you can bring it in. I'm like, well, I already exchanged it at your other store, buddy. Like, I don't understand why one guy takes days and days and the other guy can do it in 30 seconds. So I guess it's all about who you know. So anyway, thanks, Justin, for hooking me up. Anyway, the problem with that is, so here I am now, I'm going into GameStop, and now I've got $40 worth of store credit, but I just bought everything I wanted the other day. So I'm like, well, what's in here that I could buy? So I bought this Star Wars Black Series figure. Now, we talked about Star Wars Black Series in our year-end wrap-up, and I basically said this line is dead to me because they're not making any interesting content, and they're not making any interesting figures. The one figure I wanted last year, which was Hammerhead, I pre-ordered it from GameStop, but they canceled my pre-order because they oversold it. So I didn't get any new Star Wars Black Series last year. So to go a whole year without adding to the collection is kind of dead. It's on display over in this corner of my room, and I'm actually thinking of boxing it up just because I'm so, I kind of feel like I'm not buying any more of them. But anyway, do you even know who this chick is?
No idea.
Yeah, so the character's name is Shin Hati. She was in the Ahsoka show. So the Ahsoka show I thought was fine. I didn't love it, but it was fine. Maybe it's because I never watched Rebels, so I don't have the same attachment to some of these characters. I didn't really watch the Clone Wars cartoons either. But the... why do I keep forgetting his name? The guy that played...
Ray Stevenson.
Ray Stevenson, yes. So Ray Stevenson played kind of this... I don't know if he's really even a bad guy. He's kind of like an anti-hero. He's kind of like a mercenary fallen Jedi type of dude. So he played this guy, and then he had this chick as his apprentice. So they were kind of after Ahsoka the whole show. And their story is kind of left hanging to be continued for, I guess, season 2. Unfortunately, Ray Stevenson passed away, so they have since recast that role. But anyway, I liked her. Not only was the chick that played this character cute, but I actually just kind of liked her look, and I liked her demeanor. Mm-hmm. I liked the idea of this kind of fallen Jedi and his apprentice. I actually kind of want the Ray Stevenson figure too. The thing is, this one was on sale. Ray Stevenson wasn't. So I got her for relatively, I don't want to say cheap, but the other thing about this figure is when it first came out last year, I thought about buying it just because I kind of liked the chick that played this character. But I didn't. I was like, you know what? It wasn't that good a show and whatever. So I passed, but then a couple of months after they released this figure, then they re-released her with the cloth cloak. So the first release didn't have a cloth cloak. And so then they put out this new deluxe version, which was like $10 more. So the original one was like $30, then the deluxe one was $40. And I'm like, well, if I was going to buy this character, I'd probably prefer her with the cloak, because I think that adds a lot to the figure. Mm-hmm. But she wasn't even worth $30 to me, so I'm definitely not going to pay $40. Anyway, when I went into GameStop the other day, they had the deluxe one marked down to $27. Plus, I get a 15% discount off of that because of my Onyx card. So, yeah, I think I paid like $24 for it. And, Yeah, she's cool. She's like, she's got that little, I don't know how you describe this haircut with the bangs. It kind of looks like that little, like, kid from the Sia video, you know?
I was thinking the same thing. That is so weird.
Yeah, but like the actress, I forget her name. She's like a Ukrainian actress.
Yeah.
She was in Pacific Rim 2. That's the only thing I really know her from. She kind of played this like mean Russian girl that was bullying the new pilot of the Jaeger or whatever. Anyway, I thought she was cool in Ahsoka. So it's a nice figure. I'm glad I got the one with the cloak because I think the cloak definitely adds to the figure. But yeah, there you go. Will this be my only Star Wars figure of 2025? Who knows? Quite possibly. But if they eventually put the Ray Stevenson character, which is Balin Skull, is his name. If I find him on sale, I feel I might be compelled to pick him up too, so I can display them together. But all right, and possibly the last things for us to talk about in this episode are some Street Fighter figures from Jada Toys. We both love these figures.
Yes.
How many do you have now?
I have all of them except Chun-Li
Okay, you got Fei Long.
and Fei Long.
Okay.
I've forgotten about him. I have everyone else.
Which is who? So Ken, Dalsum, and Bison.
Yeah. Guile, Cammy, TJ, DJ,
Yeah.
whatever his name is. Ryu.
Okay.
I didn't do the color variants like the player 2 because
Just saying, like I liked Street Fighter when I was a kid. Street Fighter 2, like I didn't go super deep. Like I think there's like 60 characters in that game. I basically remember the original 12 type of characters. So when these toys came out, I thought, well, I'll only buy like maybe 3 or 4 of them. I was thinking like Chun-Li, Cammy, and Blanca, and that was kind of going to be it. But I got the Chun-Li in 2023, and it was on my best figures of the year list. I was so impressed with just how she felt, how she moved, her accessories. It was just like, I was really impressed, especially since I wasn't that familiar with Jada Toys. So they kind of came out of nowhere and made like one of the best toys of the year. So then the next year, other characters, like I thought about buying Ken, but I passed, but I did buy Dalsum. So he wasn't one of the ones I was originally planning on, but he was great. He's the dude with the stretchy arms and stuff. And he also made my best of the year list last year. So I've only bought 2 of these figures, and they were very high on my best of the year list both times. So that kind of made me think maybe I should be buying a little bit more of these guys because they're obviously pretty cool. So I got Guile the other day. And again, he's great too. I just love the way these guys feel. Like they've kind of almost like a rubberiness to them, but it's hard to describe. It's like it doesn't feel cheap or anything like that. It's just it feels like it's got a flexibility. It feels very durable. But yeah, they're bright colors. They move great. This guy's got like real little metal dog tags. He's got alternate head, alternate hands. He's got like a blast effect. He's just very, very cool. He's a little overly patriotic. He's got an American flag tattooed on both shoulders. That seems a little excessive. But yeah, cool figure. And so you have him, but you don't have him yet, right?
That's right. He's in my pile of loot shipment that is currently en route.
Yeah, and same as Cammy and TJ. Yeah, he's pretty cool.
It's pretty slick. I mean, that haircut looks interesting on a figure.
Yeah, it's one of those things like kind of like The Simpsons. You're like, how will this translate into 3 dimensions?
Yeah, it's almost like he's wearing a hat upside down, or someone was like, "Hey, we have to flatten his hair. Let's just put an iron on the top," and they forgot about it.
Yeah, it's weird. Like the texture on the top is kind of strange looking. Yeah, I don't know who came up with this design, but you know, the anime guys always have crazy hair. Yeah. You look at Goku and all those dudes.
I mean, I'm not going to complain. I'm a supporter of Jada Toys, so and good effort, guys.
If he just had like a brush cut, he'd be a lot less interesting.
But like the attention to detail, like a metal dog tag.
I know.
Super cool. It's on like a bathtub plug ring.
Yeah. So the other day when I went into GameStop to get my G.I. Joes
that weren't pre-ordered for me as well.
Yeah, you missed out on your pre-order. But I got Ken. So, and when I walked in there, Justin told me, he was like, "Hey, we got we got version 2 Ken in the white gi."
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, and I looked at it and I was like, I was almost picked up. I'm like, it's tempting. I'm like, but I probably should have got gi or got Ken in his original red gi, because this is how I know him. This is his, player 1 colors. And I was like, I was kind of kicking myself for not getting Ken and Ryu back when they first came up. And Justin said, well, we still have version 1 Ken there too. So I was like, oh. So I was like, all right, well, I don't need the white one, but I'll get the red one. So I picked up Ken finally. And he's also pretty great. He's got that kind of, his outfit feels rubbery, so it doesn't hinder any of his movement. He also has an alternate head, alternate hands. He's got a blast effect. Yeah, they all replicate their special moves from the game. Double jointed knees and elbows, pinless joints. These are just great toys. The sculpting looks great on them and everything.
$29.99 Canadian.
Yeah, the price point is also very reasonable. They're not as cheap as the Sega ones there, but I don't mind paying $30 for an action figure at all.
The quality, you're getting your bang for your buck every time with Jada.
And when I buy these at GameStop, again, I get my discount, so I get them even cheaper than that. They're like $25 plus tax. And I'm not even sure, because I won't get into all this on the channel, it's boring, but right now there's a break on tax on certain products here in Canada, and certain action figures, if they're marketed towards children, are free of tax. So yeah, right now I'm getting a discount, plus I'm getting tax-free on some of these toys and everything. It's pretty great. So yeah, there's Ken. You do have him, and you have him.
I do have him. He's in the box still, but
okay.
Yeah.
Which actually, that's one thing I wanted to mention. The boxes, I'll put in a still image here, but they all come in little arcade games, so they look like arcade cabinets, which is a very cool little display. I throw out my boxes, but one thing I didn't throw these out because I wanted to talk about them on the show. Because you don't even see these. When you see the little arcade game on it, you can't appreciate the background because there's that whole plastic thing in the front. But in the background of all the boxes, they have the scene from the game. So when you played the original Street Fighter, depending on which character you picked, there was a background that was true to their country or something. So here's one with a bell in China or something. There's little people standing by. And, they're all 8-bit, really digital looking. Again, Jada could have cleaned up these images and made them really nice, but I like the fact that they kept them digital looking, so it looks like it's right out of the game. This one was Guile's, so it's an Air Force base, something out of Top Gun. So there's all these people watching. They're just really cool. So well done to Jada on the boxes and the figures.
It's a really nice side piercing kick, Ken. Good job.
Yeah. And so anyway, so I bought him the day I bought my G.I. Joes. After that, the whole thing with the exchange, Justin said bring in your $40 thing, you can exchange it. So I picked up Shin Hati, which was 25 of it, but I still had another $15 of credit to spend. And they just got in Bison, the Player 2 version.
Okay.
So you have the Player 1 version, which is the better known red outfit, which I passed on. And now that my collection is growing, once I got Ken and Guile, I was kind of kicking myself for not buying Bison at the time. But he's not one of my favorite characters. Again, he was not one of the ones I set out to buy initially. So when I saw the version 2 on there, I was like, you know what? That's good enough. I could probably find version 1 if I really wanted to hunt him down. But this guy's right here. Plus, I've got store credit. So why not? And so, yeah, you have opened this figure, have you not?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I think we fiddled around with them.
We did fiddle with them.
Yeah, you brought them over. We reviewed them. And this one, it's the same figure. With some of these figures, I think they actually changed their accessories. When I was looking at the Ken version 1 and version 2 side by side in the store, it looked like the Ken version 2 had different blast effects and stuff. But I think this Bison has all the same stuff that yours did. So he's got the removable cape. He's got optional different hands, different head. He's got a blast effect. Yeah, but this guy's nice and beefy. He's bigger compared to the other guys. But, they didn't up the price and make him $10 more or anything.
They're not greedy.
He's still $29.99. Now I will mention Justin said that he could put a pre-order in for me for Blanca and Sagat or Sagat or whatever his name is. So I think I have a pre-order in for them too. So if you're looking for Blanca and Sagat, you might want to mention it to Justin as well. But yeah, so now I've got 5 of these Street Fighter figures, and I feel I am destined to get a few more.
It's hard when they're such a good toy company to not support them.
Yeah, they make great toys. So yeah, I think we're at just about the hour mark. So yeah, that's my new junk. Like I said, I do have new G.I. Joes to talk about, but we'll do an episode on those hopefully once you get your versions of it.
Whenever I got screwed out of that, but anyways.
I've got some new Masters of the Universe figures.
Which I also have.
They're in your pile of loot, are they? Or do you have
half of them are in my pile of loot, the other half I already have.
Alright, so we can maybe do an episode talking about Masters of the Universe a little bit later. I've got to do my Godzilla reaction figures. So
yeah. I'll have a lot of toys to talk about when my pile of loot comes in.
Yeah, I'll have Paul Gassari to talk about soon. I have a few things in my pile of loot as well, including my Cammy from Street Fighter. So yeah, there'll be more stuff to talk about. But yeah, you've got your business now. You're pretty busy.
I'm so busy, guys. I know one of our viewers and our friend Scott messaged me the other day and said he's having withdrawals, and I'm like, sorry, man, I'm like balls to the wall right now with work. Getting last minute business stuff set up, so wholesalers and insurance policies and all that stuff. I take possession of the club on February 12th.
So
I haven't really had
Taekwondo club that you're taking over.
So I haven't had really a lot of time to even socialize. We're pretty much like once a week now instead of a couple times a week. I suspect that'll kind of subside here once the 12th comes along and I can relax a bit.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, we were just joking when we did the time break that I hadn't coughed the whole video and then I jinxed it and coughed. So sorry to our viewers. I was really trying this time.
That's okay. I didn't catch. Maybe I'll edit it out anyway if I can catch it. But yeah, so we've got lots of toys coming to talk about. But yeah, you've been busy. I've been busy with life stuff too. I still love buying toys. It does bring joy into my life at regular intervals, which sometimes you need. Especially like the state of the world isn't great right now sometimes. So yeah, getting these little bits of joy every few days is nice. But shooting these videos can be time consuming. So yeah, just because you haven't seen us for a while, it might be longer breaks between episodes. But we will be back, and we do have stuff to talk about and whatever.
We're not going anywhere. We still chat on the daily.
Yeah, so hopefully you join us when we chat on YouTube. Yeah. So make sure to like and subscribe. Leave us comments below. Tell your friends, all that sort of stuff. Thanks for watching.
Keep collecting.
Ciao.